Right, I'm going to show you how to change the subject to the formula. Quite a lot of these questions are easier than people think they are because you can use the flowchart. They're often set out so you've got the formula to change here and what you need to make the subject here. So here, what we've got to do is make it like this. X equals something or other. So, if that X appears in one place, just like when we look at a flowchart, whether we can use a flowchart, X appears in one place, it's not negative, we can just write out a flowchart. So I'm going to start with X. X, what happens to X? Multiplied by 2. Then what happens? Add Z, and the answer is Y. So we'll reverse that. Y, take away Z, and I'll just write that down here. Y, take away Z. What's the next thing? Divide by 2. So all of that must be divided by 2, and that equals X. So you can see just using the flowchart gives me a rearrangement of that. Some people when they write this will end up with the answer Y take away Z in brackets over 2 because you want to be absolutely sure you divide the whole lot by 2. Now we don't need to write the brackets as I haven't here, you don't need brackets. But if you do put brackets in there on top and then divide the whole lot by 2, it's not incorrect. In this example, we've got to rearrange this to make A the subject, so it will end up being A equals. So I'm going to use the flowchart because A is only in one place and it's positive. So I'm going to start with A. What happens to A? First of all, it's multiplied by C. Once I've multiplied by C, I then add on 3B. After I've added on 3B, I've done all of this stuff on top, so then I divide by Z and end up with F. So when I reverse that, I start with F, I multiply by Z. So I get F multiplied by Z, which looks like that. Remember, I don't need a multiply sign there. Then I take away 3B, and finally divide by C. I'm dividing the whole thing by C. Remember in the last example, some people want to put brackets around there. You don't need to, because that line means divide everything on top by C. And finally you get A. So there's your answer. Right, here I'm going to show you how to do two examples, but you'll notice the formula I'm working with is the same. In this example I'm going to make D the subject of the formula. In this example I'm going to make A the subject of the formula, and then at the end you'll be able to compare the results. So here I can use the flowchart, so I'm going to start with D, and the first thing that happens to D is I add A squared. Once I've added A squared, I then multiply by B. Once I've multiplied by B, I end up with N. If I reverse that, I get N divided by B. That looks like this, N over B. Take away A squared, and that ends up being D. So D equals that. By the way, don't worry if you end up with this. That's right too. So the other example, this time I'm going to make A the subject, so I start with A. First of all, I square it. After I've squared it, I add D. Then after I've done that, I multiply by B and I end up with N. So I reverse that, N divided by B. Then I'm going to take away D. And then the opposite of squared is square root. So I'm going to square root the whole thing, and that gives me A. So there's my answer.